Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. I may call this video three precept breakdown, something like that. I got the idea to do videos with just three precepts in it, because three represents understanding, and I just felt that it was, a cool way to get out videos by just having three main precepts hitting the point, and that's it. So I may start a series, I'm not sure, but either or, we're going to go into three basic precepts on Edom, the Idumeans, the Edomites. Just keeping it basic, right to the point. Esau, Edom, the so-called white people. Esau, Edom are the so-called white people. Majority of today's so-called white people are actually biblically known as the Edomites. And you see, that's the important thing. It's majority. It's not every single one, but majority of so-called white people are biblically known as the Edomites. You can read about their birth along with the birth of majority of the so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans are the Israelites. And we have to know its majority, because when you read of the birth of the nations, or the birth of Jacob and Esau in Genesis 27, you should probably start at around 25. When you read the birth of Esau and Jacob, you understand that it's a nation. It's two nations of people. The scriptures say 2 nations are in thy womb. And for the sake of the video, I'm just going to get 3 quick precepts going in on Esau, so it's edifying to the hopeful elect. But essentially, it's a nation, man. It's a nationality of people. And when you understand how the Bible deals with nations, you understand that a nation is, first of all, you are of your father. The scriptures say that in Numbers 30, or I believe it's Numbers 1 and 18. You are of your father. You see, there are so many points, there are so many precepts that we could always get, Well, I'll get that really fast, kind of going off subject real quick, but just to prove that you are of your father, and that's important to understand, because the Edomites go back to a man named Esau, Edom. The Israelites, Jacob, go back to a man named Jacob. However, if one man of another nation sleeps with different women, those kids could come out looking like another nation's, that woman's nation. Let me re-say it. If a man, for instance, I'm an Israelite. If I, an Israelite, sleep with a Japanese woman, those kids are of my bloodline. They're Israelites, but they could come out looking like Japanese women. And that's basically what has happened over the period of thousands of years, or 2,000 years, a couple thousand years. That's basically what has happened. In us sleeping with the other nations, you got Israelites scattered across every single nation. Real quick precept to that is Numbers 1 and 18. It says, "And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families," here's the point, "by the house of their fathers." You see, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So we always declared who we were by our father, not by your mother, because the father carries the seed. Therefore, you are the nationality, you are directly your father's sperm. So there's no such thing as mix. You are whoever your father is. And the thing why it's spiritual is because, going back to the first example, if I, an Israelite man, sleep with a Japanese woman, that baby could come out looking Japanese, but it's still an Israelite. Because it's of me. It goes back to my seed. It's of my sperm. And essentially, that is what has happened over these years. Jake has intermingled with different women of different nations, And now you have Israelites scattered across every nation. That's why it's spiritual. You are who you are based upon the spirit now, right? You are who you are based upon your father physically, but spiritually, we discern the spirits by the spirit, right? I believe that's Romans 8:16. So it's spiritual because now you got to discern who you are spiritually. You got to discern, I look like a so-called black person, but I believe through the spirit that I'm the tribe of Gad. And you got so-called black people that could actually be Edomites. So it's crucial that we are spiritual in these times, and we have to discern based off the spirit. Basically, discerning based off the spirit goes into spiritual characteristics that each nation and each tribe would have. Once you notice those spiritual characteristics, you know who you are based upon the spirit. We don't do any blood tests, right? We just know who we are based upon the spirit. We compare spiritual things with spiritual things. Now, that's going to lead into my point of the video. We know who the Edomites are because of their spirit. We know who the Edomites are because of their spirit, man. It's not hard to tell who the biblical Edomites are. We got one precept that I was originally going to start with, Malachi 1:3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Verse 4, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. Now there's a lot to unpack in there, but namely, it says they will return and build. Now, if you know a little bit of history, the Edomites started ruling again during the Renaissance. I believe the Renaissance means the rebirth. The rebirth of who? The rebirth as the so-called white people as the rulers of the world, right? You could say rebirthing themselves as reintroducing themselves to mankind as the rulers, right? After the Renaissance, during the Renaissance, that's where they destroyed all the Israelite art. That's where they chipped the noses and chipped the ears and destroyed the braids on all the photos, so you can never tell who they were, that they were so-called black people that used to rule before that time. So that's why it says, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. The Lord has indignation against against majority of you so-called white people, because y'all are the biblical Edomites that the Lord hates. You see? Why else do you think that? They stick out like a sore thumb. Anywhere they go, they bring destruction. That's a part of the reason that the Lord hates them. You can tell who a man is by his spirit. And again, we know, segueing into the beginning of the video, who are the Edomites? The Edomites are the ones that have a destructive, lying spirit. And they are the ones that are currently ruling. You see, we compare spiritual things with spiritual things. We know who the Edomites are because of their spirit. What is their spirit? Their natural characteristics that they have. What are their characteristics? They're a liar, right? That'll be the closing precept that I'll get in Psalms 5. But real quick, I'll get 2nd Ezra 6:9. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So these are more clues to who the biblical Edomites are. They are the majority of the so-called white people. They are what? The end of the world. What does it mean it is the end of the world, and then Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth? That word world there is not talking about the end of the literal earth. That word world is talking about oikomene, which is which basically represents a certain order of worlds. Esau being the end of the world means they're going to be the ones ruling right before Jacob takes over. That's why it said, "In Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." Basically, Jacob is the Israelites, which are you so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, and anybody else of the other nations whose spirit resonates with these words and has faith in Yahweh Shai, right? Going into the beginning, the Israelites been scattered across every nation. So those are the Israelites. And then Edom is majority of the so-called white people. Esau, Edom, being the end of the world, represents that Esau, Edom are going to be the ones ruling during the end of their kingdom, aka this whole beast system, right? NATO, the EU, and America, and Russia, because that's ruled by them, Gog and Magog. And then what? By the end of this system, once this place is destroyed by prophecy, by thermonuclear missiles, Jacob, the Israelites, are going to be the ones that are going to be the beginning of it that followeth. You see? So I'm out walking, excuse me if my breath is a little heavy, but essentially this is the story. You got the Edomites and you got the Israelites. The Edomites, you can tell who they are based upon prophecy that we're reading and based upon their spiritual characteristics. They're the ones that are going to be ruling. They're the ones that are going to be evil and deceiving the whole world and acting as a dictator around the globe. And at the end of their rulership, which is what we are at, the ones that are destined to rule this place forever, Jacob and his descendants, the Israelites, are going to be the ones that rule the beginning of it that followeth. The beginning of what? The beginning of an everlasting kingdom. All right. Now, real quick, I got some information before I get my last precept. I said, where is the land of Idumea today? Just so we get some information on the maps and everything. Idumea, right? That's the Greek word for Edom. Idumea, historically known as Edom, is located in what is now southwestern Jordan and southern Israel, primarily around the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba. It's important to note that while Edom refers to the kingdom's territory in the Edomite period, Idumea is a name later used for the region after the Edomites migrated to southern Judea. So that's just a little bit of history on that. And now I got the map. As if you're watching the video, I pulled up a map. These are just quick little Google searches that you can do. I pulled up the map basically showing you where the kingdom of Edom was in the ancient day. So as you see, you got the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah. Edom was right below, southern to the kingdom of Judah. And I got it on the map. That's why it said it's where Western Jordan is now at, because when you pull up a map, I asked ChatGPT, I said, what country now rules where ancient Edom used to be? It says the country that now rules the land where ancient Edom once existed is Jordan. So the country of Jordan is primarily where the land of ancient Edom used to be. It says most of Edom's territory lies within southern Jordan. Most of it, right? Most of it lies within southern Jordan, especially around the area of Petra and the Araba Valley south of the Dead Sea. A small portion may also extend into southern Israel, but the majority is under Jordanian sovereignty today. And just pulled up a map of Jordan today so that you can see what it's talking about, comparing maps, the modern map to the ancient map. As you see, this is the ancient map where you got the kingdom, the Israelites, our land borders the Mediterranean Sea. So you see, you got our map of the ancient world, as you can get a good look. And then now you got the modern map of Jordan. So you can kind of see how Jordan, the country of Jordan over there near Israel, how you can see how that land takes up majority of where ancient Edom used to be. Just giving you more of an idea. I'm learning that when you know the maps, when you know more information surrounding the countries, everything makes more sense. You know, in biblical context, it makes more sense when you know where everything is situated. So, yeah, the map where ancient Edom used to be is now primarily where the country of Jordan is, and it also extends into southern Israel. So that's that. Let me get my last precept. And this is just a little bit of information, you know, just going in the spirit on Esau. Let me see, let me Google it really fast. It's not coming up. Their mouths were smooth as butter. Okay. This used to be one of my favorites. It's been a while since I got it. Again, we're just going into Edomites, you know, just rolling through the spirit. Majority of the so-called white people, the devil that the Bible speaks of. Just a little bit of information as I walk and talk. Psalms 55:21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And I believe this was King David actually. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, this was King David actually speaking about some of his. This was King David pretty much speaking of Israelites that turned on him. You know, he had, there were actual, if my memory's not mistaken, he had actual of his warriors that betrayed him. And this is who he's speaking of. But this also applies to the biblical Edomites, primarily them nowadays, because they are the ones, and Jake too, but just putting it in a broader sense, the Edomites are the ones that their mouths are smoother than butter. Who talks to you? Who speaks? Who nowadays speaks deceptively? That's what it means when it says their mouths are smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. A smooth talker is a person with charisma that can finesse his words and get over on you, but in actuality, their whole intention is to destroy you and keep you oppressed. Who is that talking about? You got to just use your brain here. The scriptures require a little bit of common sense. Who is this talking about? This is talking about majority of the so-called white people, biblically known as the Edomites. The Idumeans, the Adama. Esau in the Hebrew is Adama, right? It means red. Well, Esau in the Hebrew is Ashashua, which means wasted away, because their pigmentation was wasted away. And then Edom, let me correct myself, Edom in the Hebrew is Adama. When you go back to Malachi 1:4, Edom is Adama, Esau is Ashashua. So those are the terms, those are the names. Just use your brain on who all these things connect to on the planet Earth. Who are the ones that mouths are smoother than butter, but war is in his heart? They tell you that they care about you. They tell you that the laws are in their interest. The politicians, who are majority of the people in the government? It's so-called white people, right? The government is known for telling you sweet things, right? They're going to tell you that they care about you, but the whole time they just want to keep you oppressed, right? They make false promises. They made covenants. The so-called white people, right, the Edomites, they made covenants with the native Indians. I believe it was something around 500. And they broke every single covenant with them. They didn't keep them. Just look up the Trail of Tears. Look up information on the native Indians. It's obvious who the Edomites are, man. And their judgment is set. We already read it, but let's reread it to end out this video. 2 Ezra 6:9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So Esau, right, which is majority of the so-called white people, they are the end of the world. Their rulership is coming to an end, And what's going to follow is an everlasting kingdom ruled by our Lord, Yahweh Shai, right? And King David on down, and the rest of the 144 and the Israelites. So that's what's coming, right, to this world. Okay? And that's just a little bit of information on Esau, Edom, just rolling in the spirit. The Edomites, so-called white people, their time is coming to an end. And who's going to rule is the Israelites, starting with Yahweh Shai. So that marks the video. As you can hear, the dog is barking. That means the video is now, it's time to end it, man. So Lord willing, this was edifying. Till the next time, shalom.